Hi everyone, call me Jay-Z like the rapper. I am so excited to be spending this time with you. Today on the Winners in Business podcast, we are talking with leadership coach and author of Your Business is a Leaky Bucket, Howard Shore. Do you have any questions about what you can do to stop working 70 hours a week but double your revenue? Do you have questions about how to stay on top of AI? Do you have questions about who you should be networking with and generating more business with? Do you have questions about how to change when you really don't want to or are scared to? Well, stay tuned for the answers. Oh, welcome, Howard. I'm so excited to have you on the Winners in Business podcast, episode 10. How are you doing?
Well, I'm excited to be here.
Me too. I'm so excited to talk to you for the next half an hour. I am callmejz.ai, a coder and AI influencer. And Howard, you are many things, so I'm going to read your bio. Howard M. Shore is the founder and CEO of Activate Group Incorporated, a best-selling author as well, and a serial entrepreneur renowned for his expertise in liberating leadership teams from the barriers that inhibit personal and professional growth. Drawing on over 40 years of experience, Howard specializes in addressing the unique challenges faced by CEOs, empowering them to achieve rapid organizational growth and sustained profitability. He has created over $2 billion in value across multiple industries, leveraging a unique blend of practical and innovative strategies that combine the art and science of leadership. Howard is the author of 2 acclaimed books, The Leader Launchpad and Your Business is a Leaky Bucket, which provides actionable insights into accelerating business performance and achieving strategic objectives. Wow, amazing, Howard.
So it sounds like a lot, but honestly, it's been a 40-year journey.
Well, amazing. I love that title, Your Business is a Leaky Bucket. So tell me the story behind that title and that book.
Well, that's cool. So first with the title, I was head of strategy of a $5 billion company called Writer System a number of years back. And one of the debates I was having with the CEO is how much money we were leaving on the table. We kept trying to go after a lot of new things, and even in a big company like that, and we seemed like we were chasing money everywhere. And so I ran a platform because I ran all the planning for the entire company, and I used the theme, Your Business is a Leaky Bucket. Fast forward, that company, our stock price has been stuck between $6 and $20 forever, and eventually broke through the $100 stock price doing that. Number of years later, I was the number 2 person in a floral importing company, and the first thing I did was bring Leaky Bucket to the table. And about 10 years after, because that was my last straight job, about 10 years later, I'm having lunch with the current CEO, and he's like, Howard, I still remember the Leaky Bucket exercise we did. We continue to talk about it today. So, and there I had my title. I was struggling with what did I want to write a book about, and what was the title, and that's what it was. But here's where it all came from. So if you go back in my bio, I owned my first business when I was 18. I sold it when I was 21. And when you listen to that bio that we gave, man, you're like, wow, this all-star, right? But the end of the story doesn't tell you what happened during the story. And so, if I go back to that first company I owned, I grew at 100% every quarter. But the only reason I was successful was I worked 70 hours a week. I really want a do-over. If I were to go back now, I would have exited with a lot more money, and my team deserved a lot better leader. I didn't do any of the things that I do today. And then my journey continued. I worked in some pretty major companies like Writer, the one that I mentioned. And I started noticing the only reason I think I was successful is I just worked 3 times harder than everybody else. And to all of you entrepreneurs out there and leaders, isn't that the right way to do it? And the answer was no.
I feel you on that. Yeah.
I was confusing activity with productivity. And I knew there had to be a better way, and I could see there was a better way. other companies in our same industries were growing faster than we were, and it seemed like it was so much easier for them. Other leaders seemed to be going home much, much earlier than I was. And I'm like, this is just not a life. So Leaky Bucket came out of everything I learned when I started soul searching, and I read like 100 different business books, and I got a coach, I got all this other stuff. And really what that book identified was 15 areas that all businesses have, which I call leaks in the book, that they never go away. And our job is to contain them. And I don't care whether you're a startup or you're 20 billion in revenue, you all have those leaks. And so I was fascinated by the fact that the real problems in business were leadership problems that didn't show up in our financial statements. Like, I'm sure, JC, nowhere in your financial statement do you have a line item, for I hired a dumbass, right? And what that cost you. But we've hired lots of them, and they've cost us lots of monies. There's nowhere in the financial statements that capture all the revenue we lost because of bad sales processes, mispositioning in the market. There's no line item for that. And the reason is, and in my background, I am a CPA, financial statements are accurate, but they don't really capture what we need to know as leaders, which is where are we squandering money? And so financial statements capture transactions. They don't actually capture the bigger numbers, and they're always bigger, of what we lost because we didn't lead properly. And so that's what that book was about, and that's where it came from.
That's amazing that you could have done it better without the 70-hour work week. I think we're all intrigued. Can I ask you, do we all have to go through some of those mistakes before we're ready to fix them? Or do you think someone can read your book and fix them without having had those hardships?
So, and I'll probably reiterate this in the closing, that I want every leader to realize is we have a lot more mistakes than we needed to have. And a lot of it is because us as leaders, anybody who's an entrepreneur believes you can conquer anything. And you also believe your job is to figure it out, and that's not truly the answer. And so if you join, I've been in CEO peer groups for years. I've had 9 different coaches. I'm constantly reading. I read books like Leaky Bucket and Leader Launchpad, like the ones that I wrote. And, there are ways to short circuit it, and peer groups and hiring coaches and advisors, and actually collaboration in general is the way that you can shorten that curve. The other thing that I'll challenge anybody that's on this call is, I've worked with thousands of leaders over the years, and one of the things most people believe is they can't break that barrier of the 70 hours a week. And I've got quite a few case studies of people that were doing that and now work only a day a week. And their businesses are growing faster than they ever did when they were micromanaging in the midst of everything.
So it sounds like sometimes we'll have to hire dumbasses, but then we'll also learn how to fire them and hire better people quickly.
But there's a great example. So when I was, the way I used to recruit was I just learned through in my own process, my own failures. And I thought by every time I made a mistake, I could learn, but I didn't really understand why I was hiring the wrong people to begin with. So I actually, and anybody who has to select people, should get trained in employee selection. And I'm a big fan of Brad Smart and Jeff Smart. Brad wrote Top Grading. He trained me, and his son wrote a book called Who. Highly recommend both of those books. But implementing those methodologies got me from maybe the national average of hiring the right person right the first time is like probably around 20-25%. There's no exact number out there, to where now it's over 90. Had I read those books and gotten trained, 20 plus years ago, we would have truncated, and I would have gotten a lot further faster.
Intriguing. Well, let's keep going. Let's talk about AI. How is AI impacting the way you run and manage your business?
So it should be impacting everybody's business. And right now, I think the biggest challenge with AI is there's new applications for every industry and every segment of business, popping up every single day. So trying to keep up with that is like mind blowing, and then trying to figure out which ones actually work. And most of them are a work in process. But honestly, it changes our business in many different ways. First of all, the obvious one is marketing, right? So between that and other automation tools we use, AI has really allowed us to produce a hell of a lot more really, really good quality content, and brought us along. And then I think going forward, how AI is going to actually help us get it out there, I think is going to be really exciting. From an operational perspective, there's a lot of things that now take us a fraction of the time. As an executive coach, I do 360 reviews, and you got to interview 8 people, and then you have gobs of data. To create those used to take me sometimes 2 days. Now it takes me about 2 hours. And they're much better, and the plans I've been creating are like at a whole nother level for people that I coach. I actually have chats with ChatGPT all day, every day. So whatever I'm thinking as a CEO, whatever I'm thinking about challenges I'm trying to solve, I'm actually having dialogues with it constantly, just like I did with some of my coaches that I hired for myself, to think through and expand my thinking on what I'm looking at, and getting better and better at that. We're using it for creating learning content for our clients. Say it's Who, or the Top Grading Book, or whatever books we're going to encourage clients to implement. Well, we have to make sure then we give them tools and things to do it. That used to take me days. Now, in the matter of an hour, I can create a whole curriculum and put it together. And so it really has helped us raise our game, and it has really also improved, I know, for me and everybody who works for me, the quality of our thinking.
That's awesome. You mentioned as well that it's hard to keep up with all the new releases and launches of AI tools. So, you and I are in real life human, we showed up as real human beings, but how do you keep up with all the AI that's coming at us?
So a really cool thing is, in most of the peer groups that I'm in, topic of AI constantly comes up, and actually we've put in the front of one of those groups, what AI are you playing with today? Because all the different CEOs are playing with different AIs in their business. For example, a major problem for anybody who has a sales force is management, and actually giving continuous feedback to all of the sales representatives and how they can improve each sales call. Back in the day, I used to do ride-alongs with all of my sales team, and we'd have to debrief, and I could only be with one person at a time. Well, now you have apps like Ryla, and I have not tested it yet, that actually do the ride-alongs for you. So every salesperson, on every single interaction they have that sells, could be getting immediate feedback right after their interactions to how they can continually improve. And it actually scores every single call against your criteria, and then the more and more data you put in. So I didn't know about that one until last week in my forum meeting that I was in, and immediately I had like 2 or 3 clients. I'm like, you got to look at this. So I'm using, and through collaboration, I'm constantly asking people, what are they using? What's working? What's not? How are you using it? And by the way, I have everybody in our organization is getting trained in some way in AI. I'm personally going to, Asha Saxena is one of the top authorities on the subject from Columbia University. I'm going through a 2-day program with clients to bring a framework of figuring out how are we going to use this and what should we do, not only in Activate Group, but in my client companies, because I realize we got to get ahead of this. It's gonna keep snowballing, and to give you an idea, I can see, and we're already seeing it, and we've already experienced it. We use AI in all ways. We record all of our meetings using Read AI. We're doing all of these different things, but we're just at the fraction or the tip of the iceberg. So we have got to figure out how your industry is going to change. So most folks are building their businesses, not just with AI, but other things, working from where they've been and where they are. And my challenge to everybody listening to this is I think you got to think about where you're going to be 3 years from now, and you've got to really challenge yourself. I wouldn't even go past 3 years because it's crazy out there. But I would look 3 years and then I would work backwards. And actually, another favorite book of mine is 10x is easier than 2x, and that's to break your incremental thinking. See, when you think about incremental and you think about from where you are, you really narrow your thinking based on your past experiences. But if you think about where you want to be, but there's probably hundreds of scenarios to keep improving the dials in your business. But when you're going after 10x, there's probably only one or two ways to do it. So to me, going back to your AI question, I think AI is going to play a really big role. And I'll give you an example in my industry. I believe that AI is going to really democratize my industry in ways it's not affordable for so many people. It's not attainable, right? And so there, in chatting with chat is great, but you need somebody to take you through it. And I believe somebody is going to create a platform that is going to be with no person involved, loading up all their books like mine and all the other stuff, and actually create an AI at a fraction of the price point. And that means everyone will have access to it at a very cheap price point. What that means for my industry is all of the bottom clients, which we have pretty much graduated from, those are going away. Those people, if they have a choice of spending, let's say, $1,000, $2,000, or $3,000 a month for somebody to help them, or they have an app and get them about 80% of the way there for $200 a month, I guarantee you they're going to choose that one, right? So I see the bottom of the market changing. The other thing is we have to think about the future. I think what we're using AI for today is remedial. And I think we can help our clients with better accountability systems and other things by putting AI into the mix in ways to provide tools that our clients don't have. And we're going to have to build those things. And to be honest with you, I'm 59. It's kind of scary to realize that if I don't do that, I don't think our business is going to go away. I don't think most businesses are going to go away, but you're going to become mostly irrelevant. And then the pie that you can play with is going to just shrink. The other thing that we have to think about is, and I think it's one of the biggest challenges that every company is going to face, is there's several dynamics going on in the market that I think all of us need to be mindful of. First of all is the labor problem. All right. The more skilled we need people, and I'm certain you've experienced this in your businesses, JC. I know I have multiple businesses I have ownership in. Our number one problem is there's just not enough skilled people to go around for the capabilities that we need. So if we don't figure out how to use automation and all that certain ways, our growth is going to get stunted. But the other thing is, not only will our growth get stunted, our margins are going to shrink. So I think we just had this amazing opportunity the last 4 years. Everybody probably listened to this has raised their pricing. Going forward, I think raising pricing is going to become much and much more difficult unless you find a way to add new value in different ways. Your pricing growth is going to grow much slower than your cost of labor. And so if we don't figure out how to solve that equation, you're not going to be able to grow, but your margin is just going to shrink. So if you think about the biggest cost structure we have in all businesses is people. And if we can't grow our revenue pricing as fast as we need to grow their wages, who pays for that? What we do as owners. It comes right out of our pocket, right? So I think this is going to be critical that we have to really think about new ways to use the new technologies that have come out so that we can keep and preserve our margin. And the only other thing I'll say on that is, you need to do this with flexibility. You've got to constantly adapt to the new apps that are coming out, the new market conditions. Being in business is no different than it was today. The competitors are changing, the tools are changing, the shape of what's going on is changing, but it always has. And so we still got to run business the same way.
Well, I love what you said about 10x instead of 2x. I believe that gives you a lot of focus, right? So instead of chasing all the little things. You chase that one big futurist disruption. So perhaps you can give us an example from a client or your company. What gets you excited about your company, and what are you doing to reach that future envision 10x state?
Thank you so much for asking, Jay-Z. The only reason I do this business is transformational impact. My life's passion is helping people find freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of relationships, freedom of purpose. We all should only be doing what we really want to do and enjoy and gives us energy. And so my whole business is around that impact that we give to people. And I talk to people, current clients, former clients, and they talk about how, they were working 60 hours a week and now they're only working a day a week because they have a self-managing business. Or the people that were feeling overwhelmed in their jobs all of a sudden are just at peace. And so helping people through that. But at the end of the day, all of that, and going back to freedom of money, is to help everybody figure out how to, fix that equation for themselves. And so when we get to do what we do, we actually get people to go further, so higher revenue goals, a lot more profit for every dollar of that revenue, and then with less effort. And that's our mission. And so a great example is a client where we did set a crazy, 10x goal. When they came to me about 3 years ago, they had 9 locations. They were a franchise. And we helped them make 2 very big decisions that were essential if they could hit their big, hairy, audacious goal. So their goal was to go from 9 to 100 locations and 1 million members.
That's a lot. And so, amazing. Can't wait to hear the end.
Is once we saw the crazy goal, I'm like, you're not structured correctly. There's a way in which they could change pricing, which they did. And then they implemented our execution system. Fast forward, they just sold their business for $400 million. So they're worth about 25 to 30 million when we met. 3 years later, they were worth $400 million. And not only that, they're at 50 locations right now. They're already set up and it's in process, and barring some sort of catastrophe, they will open another 20 locations just next year. So their 10-year goal is likely going to happen in 6. For us, I had to look at the world differently. I was growing my firm one coach at a time and trying to build myself nationally, and realized great coaches are unicorns. Anybody can teach you a methodology like EOS or scaling up or any of those, right? But not everybody can create the meaningful change that the leaders and owners want. And so I realized that was not the way to win. The other thing is while I'm really proud of that 400 million pushed me over the 2 billion mark of value created, I'm like, well, how can I create $2 billion of value over the next 3 years? And that's what I'm working on right now.
You're doing it again. Amazing.
I'm not going to divulge my secret, but I do have one company that I took equity in that I think over the next 3 years that alone will be $1 billion valuation.
Amazing. Well, I think we're closing up and getting to the end. I will ask you one last question. What holds leaders back? Or, what advice would you give to business owners, startups, or aspiring entrepreneurs looking to get to the next level?
So it's ironic. I just talked to a CEO that was referred to us as a potential client, and his number one problem is the number one thing that I'm going to challenge everybody who's listening. Think who, not how. And actually, by the way, there's a book with that title. Mm-hmm. Most entrepreneurs get to where they are just out of grit, and they believe that they're the ones that have to figure out how. What we have to do is figure out who to collaborate with, whether it's our peer groups, whether it's other entrepreneurs, people in our same industry and other industries that have already been there, that's done that. And we've got to surround ourselves with those people. And stupid example is when I started this firm, I used to do my own books. I'm a CPA, right? Wrong. That's not what I should be doing. That's not what I was designed to do. As soon as I got rid of all the bookkeeping, I was able to grow the business another 50%. Then one of my advisors or mentors told me, if you don't have an admin, you are one. And I'm like, God, that's profound. I got an admin and we doubled again over the next 12 months. And so I've been constantly thinking, who's the next two that allows us to make that next leap? And most of the time, they're not people you hire. Like a main way in which we both grow our business is through strategic partners and key client relationships. And we were not leveraging those who's correctly. And it's just made growth so much easier than us running around trying to grow our business. And so first I would start with who, not how. And then I'm going to tell you to leverage the power of strategic execution. Cheat sheet, go to my book, Your Business is a Leaky Bucket, or the Leader Launchpad. It gives you the foundation that, you don't have to go read 100 business books. I'm going to tell you the books are dense, but it's a how to walk you through. And that's a great way. But see, there's a lot of ideas, and us as entrepreneurs, I have, God, my poor people that work for me, I have new ones like every single day, right? But ideas are great, but execution is what really matters. And so having a good execution system that makes sure you do, put your ideas into action is the main way to win. And then the last thing I'm going to tell everybody is stay adaptable and keep learning. So the biggest challenge I see for all of us is, and some of it's ego, our past success helps us believe that we can solve anything and that we've got it all figured out. And that's a trap, right? What got us here is usually not going to be what's going to get us to the next place. And so the only way you can address that is, read a lot. And believe me, a lot of people are like, I don't have time to read. I don't like reading. I have dyslexia. I have severe ADHD, as you can probably see the way we bounced around this call. And I managed to do it, but I read a fraction of the time everybody's. I didn't read all those books. If I didn't hire, business and executive coaches, if I didn't join peer groups, there's no way I would have been able to help create $2 billion worth of value. It just wouldn't have happened. So never, ever, ever stop learning. And I've been teaching that to my kids. And one of my younger sons that's 25 is I've got him reading a different book every week. He's going to kill it.
I love the advice on the who. It's so simple and will definitely get everyone to that 10x goal. Well, Howard, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
It was a pleasure being here. And please, everyone who's listening, implement something I said.
Absolutely. It's all about the execution, like you said. All right. Well, I'm going to end the recording, but let's stay on the line for a couple of minutes after that just to debrief. Does that sound good?
Sounds awesome.
Okay. Did you get all of that? Howard Shore talks about not avoiding the mistakes, but firing and doing all the right things to shortcut to the right solutions by talking to coaches like him and your peer group. Did you get what Howard said about AI? There's no way you could scour the earth for all the new AI software launches. Talk to humans about the AI that they're getting the most value out of. Scaling up your business? Don't focus on the 2-year horizon. Think about what you can do to 10x your business. That'll give you your North Star and the one thing you need to do right now. Thanks so much for spending your busy and precious time with us on the Winners in Business podcast, hosted by Beachfront Custom Development and Impact Business Marketing. I am your host. Call me Jay-Z. See you next time.